Welcome to Innovation Dialogue. I'm Diana Ding.
My voice.
My story.
My dream.
Innovation Dialogue.
We are encouraged by their story. Welcome to Innovation Dialogue. I'm Diana Ding, and today we're here with Sandy James, and she's a former mayor of City of Cupertino. We talk about what's really special about a leader. And when I talked with Sandy about, I said, well, it's really special become a mayor of Cupertino. And she said, there's nothing special about the mayor. So we start to discuss what's really special being a woman leader, especially being the mayor at your time. So tell us, how did you become a mayor?
Well, actually, I became a mayor. I like to tell young people this story simply by doing what I was asked to do to the best of my ability. And someday somebody saw something in me I didn't even know was there. I had no interest in politics, never been involved even in student government. And I actually happened for me. I was, as many mothers are, working in my son's classroom, and the superintendent of schools came through and noticed what I was doing, and when they had a need at the district office for someone to represent that particular school, they came and asked me to do that. I did it. Part of that was part of my job as being elected as the chairperson of that committee was to do a presentation to the school board, which I did, and they happened to like the way I presented it and the things that we had to say as a committee. And so the next time there was an opening on the school board, the school board members came and asked me to run. And so I interviewed them to see, is this something I can do? And I certainly didn't know anything about running a political campaign. Decided to try it, and really just surrounded myself with people that were excited about me trying that position out, representing them and representing their school. And we ran a campaign for the first time, and
you won.
And we won, and we won. And each time after that, I did it the same way. It was just basically surround yourself with people that believe in the same things you believe in, and have the same level of integrity and honesty.
Well, when you talk about that, that sounds a little too easy, but I don't believe that's true, because, you know, everything needs a lot of effort. But where will you come from? What's your background?
I'm a first-generation American. Most people look at me and have no idea that's true, but like most people in Cupertino, in my community, I come from a similar background. I'm a first-generation American. My grandmother, my Irish grandmother, 4'11" and flaming red hair and very tenacious woman, was left by her husband to raise 8 children on her own. And she came to the United States, steerage, worked her way on the ship, and came over here and raised her kids. And my parents ended up here in Cupertino for the same reason everybody else comes. They came for the school district. I had a special needs sister, and in New York they couldn't really find, I grew up the first 15 years of my life in upstate New York on a farm. They couldn't find the kind of services they needed for special needs children, so they came out to the Cupertino School District for the same reason everybody else does, because the school district was so superior. And we didn't have a lot of money, so I worked my way through school. I went to San Jose State, worked my way through school, got a job at IBM when I graduated to work my way through San Jose State. And they liked my work so well.
You got your job in IBM. How did you get your IBM job?
I just interviewed for a summer intern, as many students do. They had a certain number of intern openings, and I interviewed for an opening there, and they hired me. I worked in their personnel department. They liked my work, so they kept me on. So I worked half a day and went to school half a day all the time I was in college. And then again, and I can't really emphasize this enough, because
you told me that you never going to look for a job,
I
except for
didn't.
that one.
I didn't.
But how many jobs you had?
That's the only time I interviewed for a job, because they hired me out of college because they liked the work I did. And again, as I tell young people, just do the best you can of what you're asked to do, and you have no idea what's going to happen. And so that's how I got my first
But how
job.
do you do your best? You know, nowadays there's so many young people, they want to do their best, but still, you know, maybe their team or their boss or, you know, people don't really think that way. They thought they did their best, but the other people don't think that. How do you define what's the best way?
For me, I think it has a lot to do with your own personal values and integrity. And if you have values that are important to you, and I grew up rolling up your sleeves and getting the job done. We didn't have a lot, so we all had to help out, and I learned that from my dad. And that's the way I work. It's the way I've always worked. I try to do more than I'm asked to do, but that's an internal value for me. It's something that's important to me.
Its value is from your family, right?
It does. It comes from my family, and now it's internal to me. And so I think if you just do the best that you can do, and you're happy with your performance and what you're doing, not being afraid to make mistakes, because I think you learn as much from your mistakes as you do from your successes.
Yes.
To build good relationships along the way, that's so critical. To build relationships with the people around you, and as you get older and you try to establish yourself in different fields, because I had many different careers.
You mentioned you learned from your mistakes, and what was your biggest mistake, or a mistake that really, you know, you remembered?
You know, it isn't so much, it depends on how you define mistakes. I wouldn't say that I learned as much from mistakes as I learned from the challenges that life dealt me. We all have those challenges in life.
What was the big challenge?
So, for instance, I came from a very physically and emotionally abusive home life. In an age I'm old enough that there weren't services to reach out for. So it was okay whatever your parents did to you, whatever happened in your house. There wasn't anywhere to go get help. So I learned as a child to deal with some pretty adverse situations. Then I was raped as a 13-year-old and had to work through that. When my son was 8 years old, my husband died very suddenly, so I was left with an 8-year-old son to raise, and an 80-year-old mother-in-law who was very ill. All of those experiences, as far as I'm concerned, you know, I learned a tremendous, would I rather they not happened, of course, but I learned a tremendous amount, and I think each one prepared me for the next experience I had that was very difficult that you had to get through. And for me, you either learn from those or you let them destroy you or cripple you, and I just have too much pride to let them hobble me that way. So I think, and I learned that from my grandmother, my little 4'11" red-haired grandmother whose life dealt her, you know, a real handful, and she just plowed through it and was a real role model to her whole family.
You sound very positive. I think that's a key point, very important. But you know, if other people or some other ones went through all the difficulties, it's really hard for some of the people. So what's your suggestion? How can you, you know, get through all this but still remain so positive?
I think, you know, I can only tell you what works for me personally, but I just am one of those glass half full people. I prefer to concentrate on all the wonderful blessings I have in my life, and I have a lot of them. I have a wonderful daughter and a wonderful son. I have 2 grandchildren. I have a man that I love dearly that I've been with for 20 years. I have a community that I've been able to contribute to and that has embraced me in many aspects. I have a really interesting job. The jobs just seem to come along, you know, at certain times, and they've all been challenging and interesting. So, you know, I choose to concentrate on those wonderful blessings I have, and I think that makes a huge difference for anyone. I also have been privileged to be in positions where I have some choice about who I work with or who I surround myself with. I don't choose to be around negative people any more than I have to. Of course, you don't always get to work with people you choose.
That's right.
But, you know, you can work with anybody if you try, but then the people I spend time outside of work with, I do
Yes.
get to choose them.
Yes.
And I choose people like you, Diana,
Oh,
you know,
thank
who have a very positive outlook and value the positive things in their life. And so I think that's really a critical way of going through it and trying to figure out how you build who you are from all the experiences in your life. I feel like when my husband died, for instance, very young, he was only 54, it was very sudden. My son found him. It was very traumatic for my son. I always felt like it was a blessing for me that at that time in my life I had two people that depended on me 100% because I didn't have a choice as to whether I moved forward. There was no choice as far as I was concerned. I had a son and a mother-in-law who were totally dependent on me in every aspect of their lives. And that to me was God's blessing, was that I didn't have a choice but to move forward, to do the best I could, and to count my blessings along the way.
I think that you made a very important point. Count your blessings, because God made each person in a special, very special way, and we have to figure out what's the mission that God gave to us. So for you and I, you know, each time I talk to you, I always feel very positive energy. You know, that I have learned a lot from you, and I'm so thankful
thank
for
you.
that. Yeah,
Well,
really
thank you.
that. Yeah, so actually, you know, talking about leader, and we talked about, you know, I said, oh, this is so special. You said, well, there's nothing special being a mayor, so what's really special?
What I really meant was there's nothing special about me, you know, but it was interesting to me when I first became a mayor because titles just have never mattered to me.
What matters?
What matters to me is the person that sits in that chair, that's in that position. Now, there are positions, President of the United States, you obviously respect the position. You may or may not like the person that has that job, but the position itself. But I'm talking about the person. You know, I'm a person-to-person people. I build relationships, and that's kind of how I've lived my life. That's just who I am. So it's the person that's in that position. But I'll give you an example. I was fascinated when I became mayor the first time how critically important that is to my community, how important that position and the person in it is
What was the
to
most
other
important?
people.
Yeah.
And as you know, and probably your audience knows, Cupertino is an international city. It has been that for at least.
Even though it's not big, but there's so many important issues there.
And we're culturally so diverse, you know, that if you look around and that's who we are, you know, we have accepted each other in wonderful ways. I'm very proud of that, and we're all learning from each other. So different cultures, I found, also place different values on that. Certainly the Chinese community places great values on PhDs and on elected officials, on mayors. And for me, being a woman, I'm old enough that I've just always been maybe one of the few women in whatever career I went into.
Among the group of men.
Exactly. So it's not ever, I mean, I don't even think anything about it. I never did. But it was fascinating to me that it was really, really, really important to other women and to children, boys and girls, and still to this day it's just very important. I think we live in this little microcosm in Silicon Valley. We don't realize that in other parts of our country as well as other parts of the world, it's not the norm for women to be in leadership positions.
Yes,
And
very few women can be a mayor like you did.
so those of us that are lucky enough to get in that position, I think
But also
have a
very challenging, right? How do you get a group of men listen to you and really respect you? Yeah.
You know, it's interesting because I've been asked that question, and that used to happen more often than it does now. It doesn't happen that much anymore, but there have been times when I've gone into a room, particularly if it's people that don't know me or haven't worked with me before, and it's a whole table full of men, and I can remember this back in my career, where it was obvious to me that right off the bat I just had to say a few things right at the beginning of the conversation.
What would you say?
That let them know that I had a brain in this little blonde head, you know, especially given my size and my old blonde hair, and I'm a little short thing, you know, that I had to say enough to let them know, oh, you know, she has a brain there, and she's an intelligent woman, and she has something to add to this conversation. I don't run into that anymore.
What would you start? What the words you're going to say when you were among the group of men like
It
that?
would depend on the topic of the day,
Okay.
whatever we were there.
But you can
about.
always get attention and have them know what. Yeah.
Yes, I would find I would get the feeling immediately. I would know immediately. You know, that's what it was, and I would jump on something that came up at the very beginning of the conversation. Not something frivolous, but something I could add to.
I would assume, because I feel the same, you know, sometimes I went to a place I never prepared what to see, and I don't write on any script or things. But when I just go there, when I see people, I will know how to see.
Yes.
You just got a feeling. I think this must be from God, yeah. Send some, you know, information to your mind. Yeah.
Inexperience,
Yes.
and you know, you do, and if you are, if you're someone who deals with people all the time, and you're a face-to-face. You know, I worry a little bit about our kids these days, and this is what
play
they
games
do
all
all
the
day,
time,
and
yeah.
they don't do a lot of what we're doing right now.
That's right.
But
They
when
don't
you-
even look at you.
No, exactly. So when you do that, you can read people. You know, I can read the body language. You can too. You know, and so I would know when that was necessary, and I would also know when everybody in the room would kind of relax and they accepted you. Now, like I said, that doesn't happen to me much anymore. I've been around a long time now, and where I'm involved, whether it's in the nonprofit world or in my job or in politics or in any other aspect of my life, people tend to know who I am. I have a history now, so I don't experience that much anymore. But I certainly did, you know, as I was growing up and as I was building a career. But for me, I think one of the biggest mistakes women make in trying to establish themselves in leadership or in industry is when they try to behave in a way which you might term as masculine, thinking like they have to behave like a man behaves.
Oh,
And
like
I just always felt like the feminine part of who I am is equally as important as the business part of who I am, and I've never found that to be.
Why do you think the women will make that mistake?
Because I just think our cultures taught them that. I think the more confident you get in who you are and what you have to offer, the less you feel you have to do that. You know, and I think women today do it less than women 10 years ago or even 5 years ago.
Yeah, I think just be yourself is more important. But actually,
Very
you know,
critical.
a person like you, that's how I feel. I thought that you were born to be a good communicator. Do you believe so?
You know, we all have that one teacher who changed our lives. Although I'm a verbal person, and the people I work with tease me all the time. My family teases me all the time. My daughter's always saying, "I'm still looking for the off button." You know,
Yes.
I mean, I am a verbal person.
Yeah, me too.
You know, that is part of. So I was born that way in a way, I would say. But the teacher that changed my life is named Carmen Dale Fernandez. She died just 2 years ago. She was my speech and debate coach at Fremont High School, part of our local high school district. And I only had her my senior year, but she helped me hone my speaking skills in a way in order to be able to communicate to a larger audience in a natural and a comfortable way. I'm an extemporaneous speaker. I like to speak without notes and without a prepared
too.
speech. And it's a different skill. As you know, it's a
is
very
she
different
your
skill.
role model?
She is my role model, and just a cantankerous, little lady again. Cantankerous, oh my goodness, you know, she was tough. And I liked that too about her, you know, but we grew to love each other, and she stayed in contact with me until she died. I mean, that long.
I can tell that-
Followed my career.
Yeah, it's great. I can tell that you're very good at communication, but still, you know, after you finish your mayor job and you took many other jobs, like you are representing, you know, what you are doing right now. What's the biggest challenge right now?
In my job, I am the public affairs manager now for the Hills at Valco,
Yes.
which is a $3 billion project, 50-acre project in the middle of Cupertino that is going to finally build a downtown. It's an incredible project with a 30-acre green roof on top. And the people I work, again, I got recruited for that job. I didn't ask for it. I was doing another job that I was very happy with. But Peter and Susanna Powell, the owners, I've known them for like 20 years. I'd done some work for Peter years ago when I was doing entitlement consulting, and he remembered, again, he remembered my work. Eric Morley, who's, he and his brother own Morley Brothers. I worked with him too, and they came and talked to me about what would it take for you to come and work on this project. And this project, of course, is just, why wouldn't I want to work on it? I mean, it's in the middle of Cupertino. I've done so much in Cupertino. This is like would be exciting to be like one of the...
Even though this is a good plan, because I just learned a little bit about that, and it seems really wonderful thing. But even a good plan, a good thing, but still many people won't understand.
Yes.
So what would you do?
So, well, it is a challenge because in Cupertino for many years now, there's been a group that's kind of colloquially called the No Growth group. Right now they're called the CCSGI because they have an initiative on the ballot in November. What's happened is instead of us being able to go through the normal process to get our project approved, because the No Growth contingent has an initiative on the project which would stop us from being able to do our project. We couldn't do anything that we wanted to do there. We've had to also have our own initiative. We've had to do that too. So it's changed the whole process that we do, and we're now in the middle of a very challenging, anytime you run a campaign, it's very challenging, and so we are now in the process of, we're on the November ballot, and so we're in the process, we'll be in campaign mode between now and November. So yeah, it has wonderful benefits for the community, for the schools, for everyone, but then there's a group that doesn't want one more house, one more office. They like things the way they are, and they're very organized, and so we now have to do our part to get our message out so that the community has a real choice between those two options.
Yeah, but when I was talking to you and look at you, I can tell, you have the strength and determined in you, honestly. Yeah, but still it's a challenge. But talking about, it's a challenge that shaped us as who we are today.
Yes,
so it's
it is.
always challenge after another. So what has made you develop your philosophy about who you are nowadays?
I have been so blessed to be a part of some really unique opportunities. When I stepped down from elected office, I was in elected office for 16 years, and when I stepped down, the community did a wonderful event for me, a really wonderful event.
They love you.
It was very special, and I think the next year, a couple of years later, the chamber also had me as their Citizen of the Year, and I remember all these wonderful people got up and said these nice things about things you'd accomplish, and when I got to speak, I still remember the first thing out of my mouth, because it was so true.
You mentioned about that Veterans Day, I remember. That was so touching.
Yes, I will,
Yes.
and I'll talk about it. But so the first thing out of my mouth was, it's still true, which is I didn't accomplish any of those things in isolation. Not one of them were accomplished in isolation. I didn't even have my babies in isolation, right?
Yes, of course.
It takes more than one person. But I've been especially blessed to be part of, I can think of 3 right now in Cupertino, where somebody had a dream. 1 or 2 people had a dream, and this is such a message for young people. I love it. That came to me. I was mayor in all 3 instances here. One was the Organization of Special Needs Families, Lee Way and Chihuahua Way, came, and they had a dream. They had an autistic son, and they couldn't find a program that they really valued, and they wanted to start a program for special needs children.
Yes.
Care after school and weekends and summer school, which included, a little different than other people, wanted to include them in the regular community and have them valued. And they didn't know how to develop a board. They didn't know how to go about it, and they asked for help. This was, my goodness, way back in probably 2000, 2001. I'm still president of their board, and I still love that organization. It's very successful. It's still it services so many important families. It's relevant, and it only happened because someone had a dream and they surrounded themselves with people who believed in that. Another example is the California Cricket Academy. Hemet and Kinjal Booth, again, a husband and wife who came into my mayor's office. I know because they just remind me of this in 2003, and said, we want to build, and as the Indo-American community was getting bigger and more established in Cupertino, they had just moved to Cupertino, they wanted to establish a cricket academy, and they wanted the headquarters to be in Cupertino, but they didn't have a cricket field. Can you help us get a cricket field? And I did. And to this day, I'm a part of that organization. They invite me to everything. I'm so proud of them. They just had a big tournament, North American tournament, and their kids have gone on to win international awards. And it only happened because someone had a dream and they reached out and surrounded themselves. My favorite, and what I'm most proud of all the things that I've been a part of, is the Cupertino Veterans Memorial. And that came about when I was on the city council. One of our local young men, Matthew Axelson, and if you know the story of the lone survivor, you know, it was that event, and one of his fellow high school students that went to school with him, he grew up in Cupertino, wanted a plaque either for the library or the veterans or the memorial park. And we said, that's a wonderful idea, but why don't you get some people around you and actually see if you can't build a memorial for all veterans and active duty military. There. And I think 6 months later I stepped down, and I remember that night people saying, what are you going to do next, Sandy? And I said, I would love to be a part of the Veterans Memorial. And so Donna and Corky Axelson, Matthew's parents, called me. And the fascinating thing, and if people haven't seen it, they must go to memorial. We raised $1 million to build that memorial. We had it designed, we built it, and we dedicated it in 18 months, which is amazing that you could get anything done. And in an age when this was in 2007, when our country was kind of anti-military and there was a lot of nastiness going on. And it was so successful that the Secretary of the Navy flew out from Washington to dedicate it. So every year I do a Veterans Day ceremony there. We've never had less than 500 people, and we've had as many as 3,000. They come every year. The fire department brings their honor guard. The sheriff's department does. We have a military honor guard. We have speakers, and it's just the most amazing. And we have a student choir from one of the schools. And I have seen that particular memorial and that whole venture change more lives than any of the other things I've done. Now, I was part of the city council, built our new library, one of the most successful in the nation. You know, we built the senior center, we did the sports center, we did trails. Richard Lowenthal and I had breakfast at Hobie's the other day, and we were talking about all those special things we got to do and how well that council worked together. But of all the things I've been privileged to be a part of, the Veterans Memorial is the one I'm most proud of.
Yes, we are very proud of that too. Well, look back, you did so many meaningful things. Well, this show is called Innovation Dialogue. So we always ask our speaker this question: what is innovation by your definition in one sentence?
Boy, to ask me to do something in one sentence is a real challenge.
Two sentences, okay.
I think innovation, God, we live in the middle of it. Innovation is just what I talked about, you know, dream big, you know, don't give up, learn as much from your mistakes as from your successes. And surround yourself with other believers, and that's what innovation is. I mean, look what Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak did. I mean, they weren't successful right off the bat. I mean, they had all kinds of failures before they finished, but they never gave up their vision, and they never gave up what they believed in. Your dream. I just think that's what innovation has to be about.
Exactly.
Because it starts with someone's dream.
Yeah, that's
starts here.
Yeah,
in someone's head.
Never stop your dream. So believe in your dream and never give up. And this is what's special about a leader, and also what's special about Sandy James. We're so thankful for you to come into our show.
Thank you for inviting me, Diane. It's a pleasure being here.
Thank you for watching. As a startup in Silicon Valley, innovation is our DNA. It's inside our blood. What is innovation?
Very confident,
It's a way of thinking, it's a philosophy, it's a mindset. It's very closely related to leadership.
For me, it's really about finding the right fit between the product and the market.
Have a strong technology position, a strong market impact.
Innovation can be an idea, can be a product, can be a service, or can be a thinking. It can be everything out of box thinking, not limited to your background, to the past.
Welcome to Innovation Dialogue. I'm Diana Dane, and today we are going to talk about Cloud Festival. Today we have Carrie Davis, and she's here to share her story, which is so inspiring.
What we are doing here is to summarize, bring out the point, and give a good presentation. Help people to bring out their idea to the whole world.
It's very important to be able to spot human talent and to be a good leader.
More importantly, it's how our corporate and partners perceive the value that's come out of the event.
It was all about seizing the opportunity rather than looking at the world as a set of problems.
I want to change the paradigm of angel investing being local. I want all of us to think global and to look at great opportunities in Asia or Europe, wherever it is in the world.
Come to Dialog TV. Let us work together to bring out your idea to share with the whole world.